Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Microsoft Flight Simulator, and as you guys can see, we are in review number 2 of the DC Designs F-15C. I received an email today stating that version 2.0 for the F-15 was released, and I decided to give this another shot. Before we do, I want to go through some parameters at which I'm going to be basing my review on and hopefully avoid some of the contention that happened in my last one because I dared to mention DCS World. So, let's talk about this for a second and what I'm looking for and what the comparison really is. The comparison DCS World does not come from anything combat related. Combat has absolutely no place in Microsoft Flight Simulator, and I'm going to leave that at that. What does have a place in Microsoft Flight Simulator is an accurate flight model. This is Microsoft Flight Simulator. Okay, so when you purchase a premium simulator like Microsoft Flight Simulator, as we all paid pretty good money to purchase it, and when you're paying a premium cost, $40 for an aircraft, and before we can get into the debate, I'm just going to tell you what my standpoint is. You do not get 4 aircraft for $40. You get 1 airframe, 1 flight model, 4 aircraft bodies. Okay, you get the textures, the cockpit look, and everything like that, but all 4 aircraft flew the same way for me, took off the same way, taxied the same way, landed the same way. They all did exactly the same thing. They performed identically to each other, with literally no way to distinguish between the two based on the way they were handling. Which means we got 1 airframe, 4 different looks for $40. Okay, that's my problem. At least that was my problem at the end of the previous video. We'll see if this one changes. I have yet to fly this variant of it, so we'll see what happens. My installation methodology was I completely removed the previous version and used the installer to download the new one, or install the new one. So, you know, there should be no remnants of the previous aircraft. I used their uninstaller. And again, the comparison to DCS World is just the way it handles, just the way it flies. And the reason why I think it is fair to compare that is, yes, somebody had commented that DCS World, you know, their aircraft are 60 to 80 bucks. Yes, their study level simulations, you're absolutely right. The DCS World F-15 at some times of the year is $10. And the rest of the time of the year, it's $15. And DCS World itself is free to download. Okay, so I'm going to call that a pretty fair comparison. None of the cockpit features inside the DCS World F-15 work. It is not a high-fidelity aircraft. It just has a good flight model. Okay, so that's all I'm talking about. How does it handle? How does it take off? How does it taxi on the ground? Okay, how does it land? Can I use the HUD? And I am aware that this is a custom HUD that by default MSFS does not support the HUDs. Okay, so the HUD is custom built, and that's great. That's only great if it works. Okay, that's where I'm going to stand on that. Otherwise, it's just a picture. And unfortunately, there's no other way to say that. You know, you can't boast about a HUD if it's unreliable. And on the previous version, the HUD was unreliable. The flight path indicator did not truly depict where the aircraft was going to wind up, which is the entire purpose of the flight path indicator or velocity vector indicator. So that's crucial. You know, you can't boast about a HUD if you can't actually use it to fly the aircraft. And then of course the sound issues, the lighting issues, the overall textures I really don't have that big of a problem with. I have noticed that at night, which is why we're sitting here looking at this, at night they're a lot better than they are during the day. We're going to watch, for example, this stick in the daylight turns dirty if it's still the same way it was last time. But like at night, the cockpit looks great. I really don't have an issue with it. You know, it's comparable. I don't have a problem with it. It's not where some other aircraft are, but it's not terrible. So let's just get that out of the way right now. So anyway, I just wanted to make sure everyone understood where I was coming from DCS World. I am not expecting weapons release. I am not expecting radar, countermeasures, RWR, anything else you guys can think of. That I'm not expecting TACAN. I'm not expecting, you know, any of the things that are used for air-to-air combat mode. Okay, none of it. So just keep that in mind. I'm interested in the flight model. The things I'm going to be looking at today, again, as I previously mentioned. How does it taxi? How does it take off? Am I at 300 knots in 10 feet before my wheels have even left the ground? And that's what happened last time. On my previous takeoff, I was going so fast, so quickly, I couldn't control the plane. Does it taxi like it's on rails and wanting to fall off like it's off balance? Okay, these are the things I'm going to be looking at today. Okay, some people say that I judged it too harshly last time, but again, at $40 for what I am considering one plane, because the flight model is indifferent amongst the 4 variants, which should not be the case. Okay, if you're going to give me one flight model for 4 aircraft or for 4 airframes, you sold me one plane. Okay, that's where I stand on that. So let's go ahead and jump into the review and see how F-15 2.0 looks. There was one more piece that I wanted to point out to you guys before we get into it. This is the JustFlight website. You can see here's the price, $40.99. Okay, most of this text is fine. There's a couple that I still think are misleading, but all in all, I don't have a complaint with it, except for this last line. DC Design's F-15 Eagle is designed to provide a top quality aircraft that is extremely detailed, yet less demanding to fly than today's most complex procedural simulators. Equipped with all required avionics and with custom-coded animations and systems. The DC Design's F-15 Eagle is designed to be accessible to all users without the need for intense study. Couple lines there. You guys, I'm sure, already caught to which ones that I have a problem with. So, let's keep those in mind as we do our review. Alright, so jumping back into the plane, I actually just noticed that the first issue, I guess, if you will, struck me. This is supposed to be a cold and dark start, and number 2 is sitting there idling. But that's okay, so let's go ahead and shut her down. Well, let's move to a daylight. I'm not quite sure why at night started me. Oh, went too far. There we go, start there. Alright, so what do we got here? Let's go ahead and shut this one down. Alright, so that works, that's fine. Now we're going to walk through their process. And you see, like, the stick looks a little funky in the daylight, but I mean, it's got good texture, don't get me wrong. Just the coloring seems weird. Okay, but you know, that's fine. I can get past all that. That's not a big issue. That was never an issue. So let's take a look at starting the aircraft up according to their procedures. Now, this is another thing. Like, their startup procedure is nowhere close to the real aircraft. Could not care less. That's totally fine with me. All right, so battery, avionics, inlet ramp, both sides, fuel 1, fuel 2. According to their guide, crack the throttle. We're cracking the throttle. And let's see here. Am I missing anything? Nope. Let's do left engine crank. And it's like, you know, the reflections on the gauges, they look great. You know, some of the reflections and everything look absolutely fantastic. I'm not quite sure what we're looking at, but there's something back there. But it does add a lot to the glass. The glass looks phenomenal. We're not rotating yet. According to this, we should be. Alright, well, let's just move right into the auto start then. We'll let the computer do it. So, Control and E or Echo on our keyboard. And now it's rotating. Okay, cool. No worries. Maybe I missed something. I didn't think I did, but it's possible. So, let's see. We're going to do... What was that? Oh. Nose wheel steering or anti-skid on. And then let's take a look at lights. That was another one of my weird issues that I had. So this should be, I would guess, the nav lights, position lights, anti-collision. Let's go outside and take a peek while the engine is starting. Sticking away from where they were. They're a little stuck out still. Now the developer told me a trick to get you can cycle the lights. They're supposed to go back long. But I mean, either way, they're a heck of a lot closer than they were last time. Again, I can get past that. We should have 2 starting engines. Or started engines, I should say. Hello. Okay, so, groovy. I'm not going to worry about... Let's turn the pitot heats on. Now, do these actually work? Oh. Don't appear to. Maybe that's future development? And that's totally fine. I was just curious what they do. It's totally fine. That was me just being curious. All right, so then coming over here, let's see. Let's take a look at some of the radio panels and see if we can't figure out. So we can change our frequencies here. This is our standby. This is our active. Is that working? Yep. And then I think that's the swap. Yep. So that swaps them. ADF, the nav frequencies. Yeah, that's working. Okay. And there's your swap. Oh, I think I moved it. Yep, that little button swaps them. Okay, so that's cool. We have nav frequencies. But do we have a way to guide it? That's my next question. Where's our guidance for that? I'm just checking the different modes, see if they do anything. Course knob. Alright, so that actually adjusts the course knob. That's good. Oh, I hate that zoom. I hate the zoom. I hate the zoom. I hate the zoom. What is going on? Oh. I smacked the middle mouse wheel too hard. Okay, so I don't know if we can use those yet. We'll have to maybe enter in one. The ADF frequency, is that actually... Oh, what is that? Nav 1, 110.5. Is that what we're showing up here? Yeah. Okay, the ADF does seem to be working. Oops. I don't see anything else doing much. Autopilot controls, I think, are over here. Transponder. I don't... Oh, come on, knock it off. God, I hate dealing with that. Yep, that works. So the transponder is working. Per digit. You can roll it all the way back to 3. Okay. That's kind of cool. That's good. Oop! Uh-oh. Okay, saved it. And then, is there anything back here? Okay. So, with that in mind, canopy functionality, same as it was. Okay. All right. Well, let's go ahead and see about taxi now. All right, so previously taxiing was really erratic, hard to do, sort of difficult to keep her stable. Now the one thing I did notice right here, I stopped the aircraft, watch the throttle, adding throttle, and if you notice, you can't hear the engines changing pitch. Over the halfway gate now, and now we have throttle input. Okay. Something noting of. And if we start turning, okay, taxing, I can tell you right now, is already better. So that's fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Taxi feels good. More of what we would expect. Yeah, much better. Unfortunately, the HUD has gone completely dark. Alright, so there's our taxi speed. We're at 11 knots. And again, I understand the HUD is tough. I get that that had to be built from scratch. I do understand that. I have seen in multiple locations that Microsoft Flight Simulator does not support the HUD natively. Yet. Alright, so we're showing 35,000 pounds, if that's accurate. Let's verify that. Yep, total weight. Okay. So I would be expecting about 150 knots at rotation. And again, that doesn't have to be dead on accurate. I'm not going to judge one way or the other. I'm just looking for an authentic roll. That's all. Something that makes me feel like I'm taking off. You know, even if this is just supposed to be fun, half the fun of flying a fighter, whether it's DCS World or not, is the takeoff. Feeling that kick when the afterburner lights in and having to accelerate down the runway and holding that center line as you zip down the line in that little plane. So I do notice that anything above 15 knots and you lose a lot of nose wheel steering authority. Alright. That HUD's really hard to see. Alright, so I'm probably not going to be able to use the HUD for speed reference. But we have our speedometer down here, so that's totally fine. Now, the other thing I don't have is any kind of flap indicator. Oh, there it is. So there's flaps in motion. So that should be half flaps. There's full flaps. Okay, cool. So I do have that. There they are. Alright, so we want half flaps for takeoff with 3 bags on anyway. Alright, let's go ahead and cycle her up. I don't know why the velocity vector is jumping around like that. Alright, so accelerating, accelerating. There's full power. There's 150. Pulling back, pulling back, pulling back. Much better. Still a little short, but heck, so is the A320 most days. But much better feeling climb out. That was a much better feeling climb out than before. Much, much better. Alright, flaps coming up. Oh, this freaking stuttering is coming from all of a sudden. It's obnoxious. Pulling the speed back. Now, she feels real bouncy. I mean, I'm just tapping the stick. So that's not good. Flight model definitely still needs some work if it's been improved. By the way, that's the other thing. I did not check the changelog, and I didn't check it on purpose. I don't want to know what the changelog is. I want to know what the experience is going to be from a first-time user's perspective. And I know that's kind of limited for me because I already flew the previous version, but I was trying to approach this as a fresh start here. So, let's see what we can do with a tight turn. Got one of the tightest turning aircraft in the world. It's not too bad. We're holding on point. Kind of. What is this darn stuttering? Okay. Not sure what's going on with this incredible stuttering that just appeared. but that's what it is. Okay, so overall handling, much better than before. I can definitely see an improvement. Feels more like I'm flying a jet. So hats off to you guys on that one. There's definitely been some improvement there. Now I want to simulate something here, and I don't know how well this is going to work. Why is my head tracker being such a pain? It is not lining up right. Well, this stuttering is annoying. I don't know what's going on here. But what we're going to simulate here, and try to simulate, is dumping the fuel bags. Oh, looks like it already has. Oh, looks like it did. So now let's go to the external view for a second. Okay, that's fine. So the maneuverability, pretty good. What I would expect. Full aft on the stick. Alright. Now I know it does have some autopilot functions and things like that. I'm not worried about reviewing that right now. So the next point of contention is the HUD and landing the aircraft. One of the things that was impossible to do previously was to use the HUD or the flight path indicator as a landing source. It's like something that's already catching my attention is that the flight path indicator is in line with the aircraft data. And that's a red flag for me. That makes me curious about what the flight model is, or what the aircraft pitch truly is doing. So I'm watching my vertical speed here, and it says we're climbing at 1,800 feet per minute. So I'm going to try to land it, and let's see what we get here. And I think to make things easy, we'll just enter the pattern for Tucson International. Let me change the weather. Try to get the sun. Here, let's do this. There. There we go. I would definitely say this aircraft's going to be more fun to fly in certain weather conditions than others. But let's go ahead and try to bring it down. I don't know what the heck is causing all this stuttering. It is driving me crazy. It just started out of nowhere. I've been flying all day long. Alright, so numpad slash pops the air brake up. I'm watching our descent rate. We are falling at, 200 knots. We should not be falling this fast. And I cannot arrest our descent. Alright, so we're going to see if the flight path indicator is accurate. Gear coming down. Full flaps. And we're climbing. We're at 170 knots. Feels like a little fast, but that's okay. I can live with that. We are not going to end where the flight path indicator says we're going to end. to touch down way early. Okay. So, come on, brake. Air brake is, speed brake is deployed as well. All right. So now let's talk about final thoughts. All right. So my final thoughts on DC Design's F-15 version 2.0 is there's been improvement. Definitely an improvement. Taxiing was better. The takeoff was better. Landing was very much a struggle. If I had tried to use the flight path indicator, which is what... So for anyone who may not know, the flight path indicator's purpose is to give you a visual reference of where the aircraft is going to end up. You have the W here, which is actually called the aircraft datum. It is a visual reference on the HUD that's telling you where the nose of the aircraft is pointing. The flight path indicator, or velocity vector indicator, the circle with the 3 notches on it, is to tell you where the aircraft's path of flight is. So, where, for example, when we were landing, if the circle, the flight path indicator, was on the edge of the runway, we should have touched down at the edge of the runway. So, I'm going to say that the flight path indicator is more or less pretty unreliable, which is critical because there really is no other way in this aircraft to navigate well. The ADI doesn't seem very reliable. I don't want to turn this into another bashing session. I don't. I can see the improvements. There are obviously some issues. You know, the aircraft starting with the right engine running from what was supposed to be a cold and dark state. Now, my big gripe with that is I feel like in testing that's something that should have been caught. Maybe it's just me. Maybe there's something weird going on with my settings. Let me know in the comments below for those of you who have it. The lights improvement, you know, that they're no longer, you know, sticking out 2 feet from the aircraft, so that's great. The textures, I mean, they still look pretty much the same as they did before. And again, it goes back to that description on JustFlight site. Extremely detailed with all avionics required, or all required avionics. And I just don't agree that that's the case. I would not call this completely complete. I would not call this ready for flight. The flight handling was better, but you guys saw just little taps on the stick and it was bouncing like it was sitting on a spring. That's not accurate. I can tell you right now, based on the way it was turning and handling, there's no way, for example, that you could do like an overhead brake with it. And that's the thing. And maybe this is just the way I think of, you know, in any simulator, if I'm going to be in a Air Force fighter jet, and that's why, you know, when we took off, we took out of Davis-Monthan Air Force Base. You know, I want to land like an Air Force fighter pilot does, you know, and, you know, I'm not looking for this to simulate me being in combat, but my thoughts when I first purchased this was, you know, I'd want to ride in an F-15. You know, here, you won this raffle. You get to take this F-15 up and go do whatever you want with it, you know, and or, you know, picturing yourself putting on an air show, right, zipping back and forth over the runway, doing, you know, snap turns, and things like that. That's what I anticipated. Okay, I never anticipated a combat-ready simulation. That's just like I think I said in the beginning of the video. Air combat has no place in Microsoft Flight Simulator whatsoever. None. Any kind of combat. Okay, yeah. For anything combat related, go to DCS World. It's got tons of it. That's all it has. Well, that's not true either, but still. I would say this aircraft, yes, has seen a pretty significant improvement from my previous review. I'm still not going to condone $40 price point for it, because again, I still stand firm. You are not getting 4 different aircraft. You're getting one airframe with 4 different looks, and a back seat, you know, and that's not $40 to me. And to give a point of reference in the same simulator, you have the Coronado PA-44, That was what I think it's just shy of $40, $39.99 I think it was, or $39.99. I can't remember it now. Been so long since I bought it, for a fully functional aircraft, fully simulated, fully modeled aircraft. And yes, it's not a fighter jet. Absolutely, it's not. But it is a twin-engine general aviation aircraft with everything modeled. Okay, a very solid flight model, working avionics, working controls, radios, nav radios, heading indicators, heading bugs. It's like, you know, something that I bumped on accident on the previous one. And let's see, yeah, I can tell you right now it's the same. Autopilot altitude, steer, and vertical speed. So what that is, these are your autopilot indications down here. Watch this. So if we go into autopilot hold mode, there it is, 2,800 feet down here, you know. But like, and then if you add a heading hold, there's no reference of where the aircraft's pointed. I mean, it works. It worked in the last one. You could use the autopilot, you know, to do your heading hold and things like that, but there's no reference. You have no idea where the heading is set unless I'm just missing it. And if I'm missing it, that means it's somewhere that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, because, you know, it's not up on the HUD. There's nothing on the HUD. As I adjust my heading, you know, there's nothing moving there that would tell me what my heading is set to. So that makes that feature really not applicable or usable. The vertical speed works. The autopilot hold or the altitude hold works. I think even the flight level control works, although again, I don't know that there's any reference to how fast you want to be going. I'm not sure why the angle of attack is showing us at negative 179, but anyway, so again, I'm not going to turn this one into a big, long, bashing rant, but I get what they're trying to do. I get what they want to do. I get what they're looking for. I don't understand the price point, and I don't agree with the price point for what we're paying for this aircraft compared to what we're getting. And again, what it all falls down to is that we are not getting 4 truly different and completely accurately modeled aircraft. You cannot say that and and then turn around and say that the flight models aren't meant to be accurate. You can't do that. You can't say I'm selling you 4 aircraft, but they're not accurately modeled. Okay, because you're selling me 1 plane. Okay, and then in the condition these are in, yes, there's been an improvement, but these are still, in my opinion, in very poor and low quality condition at the moment. Do I see progress? Absolutely. Do I think in a few months from now maybe these things will be rocket stars and absolutely awesome? Sure they could be, absolutely. But I don't think they're there right now. And I hope the developer keeps working on it. I really do. It's got potential. Absolutely. I will absolutely be the first to say it has potential. I think the verbiage on JustFlight is very misleading. I do not think it truly depicts the current condition of these aircraft. Again, for the price point, you can't say things like extremely detailed and have an aircraft in this condition. You can't. I mean, that right there. You can't say has all required avionics and have an aircraft in this condition. You just can't. You know, a required avionics for this aircraft, based on the way that it is meant to be used, would be the HUD. And just because it's there doesn't mean it's functional. It is absolutely not functional. Like, for example, right here, the whole half of it, once it hits the sky, you can't see it. That's a problem. The flight path indicator, you have to know where the plane's going to end up. That's why it's there. So anyway, I want to point that out, and I hope you guys enjoyed this. Hope you found it valuable. I hope the developer truly keeps working on it. And as always, leave the comments down in the description below and let me know what you guys thought. I will see you guys in the next one.